Great. Brad.
We'll see.
Any questions or comments? Motion to approve? Motion to approve is approved. Second. Mr. Duval? Yes. Mr. Evans? Yes. Mr. Snyder? Yes. Mr. Vaughn? Yes. And I vote yes. Motion is approved. Next, we'll open up the meeting to public input. Is there anybody here that would like to address the board on any active application?
Hello again. You want, I mean, I've been here enough. You guys know my name and address. and all that. We need my name and address again. Okay, Brian Trammell. So I sat down this morning with the intention of writing a small statement based on what was said in the last meeting regarding the Horner Farms. There's so many things that still haven't been addressed, from traffic to water. I've stood up here multiple times calling for action, second look, for these things to be addressed. And it appears that the project team doesn't seem to care what the citizens think. Hasn't been addressed in any of their revisions of the plan. They're just going ahead like there's no impact. Project says that it deals with water drainage sufficiently. However, the land that is in question sits quite a bit higher than all the surrounding land. So unless the developer plans to put in a swale drain deep enough to actually remove the excess of water from torrential rains or flooding, or level all 65 acres so that it's all the same, this will just cause additional water sources to head towards the lowest point, which is the development around it in Wallington Meadows and Elder Meadows. Even without this project, I personally, as well as many of my neighbors, already see issues with water pooling in our backyards as a result of others around us filling in their easements or improperly or outdated designed systems. During torrential rain events, I had an unintentional swimming pool in my backyard. 10 years down the road, if some overzealous homeowner in this proposed development decides to fill in or level what they assume is their property, this will cause water to flow into the homes nearby. The point of designing an effective drainage system is to prevent these issues from happening, not do the bare minimum and pass it on to town codes to deal with when it becomes an issue, which appears to be the approach we're taking here. All this doesn't even begin to take into consideration, what if that swale actually fails to drain or move the water sufficiently, or water just sits in it and becomes stagnant. We already have an infestation of mosquitoes in the town of Cicero. You all know it's a problem every year. Half the summer I can't even use my backyard because they are so bad. If these swales just contain but don't remove the water, you're creating a breeding ground for mosquitoes and all the diseases they bring with them. Aqua hasn't addressed any of the water pressure issues in the area. I understand we can put a plan in action to get that rectified. However, if this project starts and phase is finished before that's done, the problem is heightened before a resolution can even be implemented, leading to further issues for existing residents. Traffic hasn't been addressed. We are still using the traffic study that we know does not represent the accurate count of vehicles that are on the connecting roadways. Residents do not want traffic from these homes on our quiet side streets. They will zip down Cat's Paw to get to South Bay and Hardwood to get to Button Road to avoid the stop sign at Yulewood. The simple fact is a new traffic study needs to be done with accurate numbers counting both morning and evening commutes and in both directions to include Lakeshore Road and Lakeshore Spur. Residents are already talking about packing up and moving if this project goes forward, which means the developers are essentially pushing people out of their homes who are not in favor of this project. People who have called this surrounding area home for decades. Speaking personally on this project, after 5 years and numerous rejections from our town government, I'm absolutely disgusted that the developer can't take a hint. I have spoken to nearly 2,000 people on this project, from homeowners to elected officials, first responders, and the list goes on. No one wants to see this project put into action. Only the developer does. And for what? According to Onondaga County public record, he already has a 4,500 square foot home with a pool, basketball court, outbuildings, and acreage that the residents of this area can only dream of. And the price tag for all that is at least 3 times what I make a year. So honestly, what's the point of this whole project? You are destroying precious green space, which we have minimal left here, to save maybe 10 acres around your project. That maybe is possibly protected, but the homeowner could do something, and if they're not caught by town codes, oh well. You're potentially displacing families who don't want to deal with the impact of this project. and the project will have on them and their homes. You're adding to traffic problems in this town. You're adding to water issues in this town. And for what? Any answer the developer or the family can provide simply isn't going to be good enough to just justify the damage that will be done to this community by this project. The only acceptable solution for the residents is that this project not move forward and not be for residential use. Thank you.
Would anybody else like to address the thing? If nobody else is coming up, we will close the public input. We'll move on to the first agenda item. This is for the Beverly Development property. This is the zone change recommendation for the town board for PUD property 8016 Booth Road. I see the applicants are here. Did you want to address the board at all? You don't have to.
No, you know, definitely can answer any questions. I know that there's likely been in the last few weeks, you know, the recommendations have hopefully come together, whether it's in draft form or not, but if there are specific questions, we're here to answer.
Okay, thanks. We do have a draft form in place. We will discuss that. And then I just want to, Steve was given a letter by a resident, so I just want to re-listen to the minutes. A resident that lives over in the Fairview area. Hope you receive this comment, present my comments to the planning board. Residents of the Lincoln Ave Loop, our thoughts about the Beverly development. For those of us that live in our development, it's quiet here. We had a berm put up for a reason, to keep out the noise and to keep it as a residential setting. We do not wish to have the area of Fairview Ave and Central Ave open to the road at the car dealership. That defeats the purpose of keeping this community our little lifestyle that we are accustomed to. There will definitely be more traffic. People will cut through the neighborhood no matter what signs are up. Drivers will do anything to avoid Route 11, even for a short stretch of road. Most of those retired here. It's unimaginable that this development is being proposed or considered. As soon as you cut those trees down and open up, all the noise from Route 81 will carry through the proposed development and into our neighborhood. There are other factors we have considered that will be for another time. It was given to us by Faye Gregory. So the planning board received the draft that was prepared by myself, Mark, and Neil. I went back and forth with it. We've all had a chance to review it. All right, questions or comments? Nothing? Steve? Questions or comments on the draft?
No.
Mark?
No.
Neil, how do we want to proceed?
There's two ways. We can have a motion to accept the draft resolution by the planning board as the recommendation of the planning board, or I could read the whole thing as a motion. Now, and that would be your motion to, you know, for the recommendation to the town board. Either of those would work. I would suggest that I actually probably read it. And for one of the reasons is nobody's heard it. Okay, so if you want me to read it as right, so you want me to read, it'll be public record.
Yeah.
But I can read the whole thing as a resolution for you to vote on.
Okay, yeah, let's do that.
Okay, so you're gonna move for adoption of resolution as follows. In accordance with town law, the town code, section 210-14D5, the planning board is required to provide a recommendation to the town board in regard to the application for a plan unit development directed by district by Gaberly Development LLC applicant at 8016 Brewerton Road. The planning board's review it and recommendations are based on the criteria listed in town code 210-14G as follows. Use of the proposed will not be detrimental to the present and potential surrounding uses, but will have a beneficial effect which could not be achieved under another district. 2, land surrounding the proposed development can be planned in coordination with the proposed development and that it is compatible in use. 3, The proposed change to a planned unit development district is in conformance with the general intent of the comprehensive master plan. 4, existence and proposed streets are suitable and adequate to carry anticipated traffic within the proposed district and in the vicinity of the proposed district. 5, existence and proposed utility service, including but not limited to water, sanitary sewer, stormwater sewer, are adequate for the proposed development. 6, each phase of the proposed development as it is proposed to be completed must contain the required parking spaces, landscape, and utility areas necessary for creating a sustainable and desirable and stable environment. 7, the proposed planned unit development district and all proposed buildings, parking spaces, and landscape and utility areas can be completely developed within 5 years of the establishment of the district. As such, the planning board recommends the town board consider the approval of the proposed PUD with the following comments, modifications, and conditions. 1, the PUD allows for 278 units versus 228 units that will be allowable under an RM multifamily district. Studies have been completed on traffic impact and sewer capacity that show that the additional units can be accommodated by the existing infrastructure with the appropriate mitigation as discussed herein. However, the planning board finds the layout of the multifamily portion of the project does not create a sustainable, desirable, or stable environment for the following reasons. A, the amount of impervious area is excessive, which creates issues with aesthetics, snow removal, and lack of landscaping and green area. In particular, the flats units are considered to create development that is too intense and not consistent with other developments in the town of Cicero. The planning board recommends the plan be modified to use the area in the northwest corner of the site to reduce the intensity of the development and create additional green and landscape areas and provide adequate number of parking spaces. 2, the project provides for cross access between the adjacent commercial uses and the signalized access to New York State Route 11 for the adjacent residential area. The board recommends the following modifications to the plan and conditions of approval relative to these issues. A, the proposed town road should end at the cross access to Fairview Avenue, and the remainder of the access roads on the site to be private roads. B, the planning board recommends that the cross access to the Fairview Drive should be two-way access signaled as local traffic only to discourage traffic from entering the residential neighborhood, but also recommend that the town board obtain input from the neighbors on this issue. C, location of the cross access to Walmart site should be moved to align with the access drive east of the Walmart loading area. D, the access shall be constructed with the first phase of the development. E, the applicant and the town should coordinate with Wide Waters to have the access extend to the Marshall's Plaza. 3, the applicant has completed a traffic impact study that has been reviewed by the New York State Department of Transportation. The traffic impact study provides recommendations for improvements to mitigate the impacts of traffic from the project, including a new traffic signal at the entrance to Route 11. The New York State DOT has agreed with the proposed mitigation with the conditions that the Lincoln Avenue connection be constructed on opening day. The connections to the properties north and south of the site be designed as part of the site plan, and modifications be made to the design of the signalized intersection to address the concerns related to existing driveways on the west side of US Route 11. It is recommended that the PUD approval be conditioned on completion of the mitigation per the requirements of the New York State DOT and be completed prior to the opening of phase 1 of the project. 4, in accordance with Town Code 21017G, the planning board recommends a minimum of 2 parking spaces be provided for each multifamily unit with up to 2 bedrooms and a minimum of 3 parking spaces for each multifamily unit with 3 or more bedrooms. A minimum of 1.5 parking spaces per unit is recommended for the senior apartment portion of the project. The applicant's parking space count includes spaces within garages that have a surface parking directly adjacent to the garage. This would require vehicles in the surface spaces to be moved to enter or exit the garage. This does not meet with Town Code 21017D1, which requires parking spaces to be directly accessible from the interior of the drive and from the interior driveway. As such, the planning board recommends that the spaces directly in front of the garages not be included in the parking count. 5, should the town board agree with the recommendations here and require significant changes to the plans, it is recommended that the town board require further review of the plans by the planning board and a provision of a subsequent recommendation by the planning board after review of the modified PUD. That would be in the form of a motion.
So just a comment on the cross connection into the Lincoln area. So we're recommending 2-way for residents only. We think that benefits the residents. They can actually come on, use the light, they get on the 81, we love it, like we want. And also if they want to go to Wegmans or whatever, they can do that through the cross connection. But you also notice that we recommend that the town board seek their input. So it's kind of contradictory to what I initially read, but we think that's best. Questions?
I think the people that live in that neighborhood are forgetting the fact that whenever they want to come out of there and turn left and go south, it's many times during the day, it's impossible, where they had a way of getting to the light that this project's going to put in. So I'm not sure that all the information was given to the people that, or to the group that made that decision. But I think it does mean that we need to go back and have another conversation with those people, maybe in a public meeting here. So, because I think we ought to do what they like. But I'm not sure they know what we're doing in the response to that letter.
Yeah, and that's what the motion says, right? It says that we recommend it, but that the town board should seek input from the residents. Because I agree with your statement, I think it does benefit them. And if it becomes an issue with people utilizing the commercial and cutting through the residential to get on to 11, then it becomes a policing issue. Stop it.
Well, I think if that were to take place, having it be a one-way out, so the people in the development still get to the light. And, because when they're going down 11, if they're coming, if they're coming from the north and they can't turn left into their development, they could still right now go to the light if we have a 2-way. But if that becomes a problem, then we can change it to a 1-way.
It'll come out that way.
The other thing on that cross connect, with the apartments going in there, with the new signal light, the whole 9 yards, as soon as that signal light, say, is red, people are trying to come out of that apartment complex. If they want them to go north, they're gonna cut right through that development. Seen it happen.
Yeah, you gotta weigh the pros and cons.
Yes.
So is it worth cutting that? I don't know the answer to that. Is it worth cutting that entrance into the residential off? So that people don't do that and perhaps get a ticket. And do it once. But then you lose the benefit of a neighboring resident shopping in one of the stores and then having to go out on to 11 and then over into the neighborhood.
Now, I think the desire of the neighborhood is more important than anything else, so if we need to do a survey that we hand out to everybody in the neighborhood and they, hand it back to us, maybe that's what we gotta do.
Well, the town board is going to do a public hearing. And the neighborhood will be notified. So we have a motion on the table. I will make that a motion. Anybody like to second it? Second. Mr. Duval.
Yes.
Mr. Evans. Yes. Mr. Snyder.
Yes.
Mr. Ross.
No.
And I vote yes. Motion passes. That concludes that item. We'll move on to next and last item. This is Leslie and Associates for the Horner Farms. Oh, welcome back.
Thank you. Does everybody have a copy of the plan? For the record, I'm Hal Romans, surveyor and planner for the applicant. And we received a copy of the July 14th review and comment letter that Mark Harris did for the board here, where he reviewed the preliminary plan that was last revised June 1st, preliminary utility plan, preliminary road profiles, preliminary grading plan, the drainage report, the sanitary sewer capacity study, the original sketch plan that was last revised in October 2021, and the traffic operations that was dated September 28th, 2021. Mark went through and gave comments on all of those that he had reviewed them. He asked for or mentioned that our plan, which is the preliminary plan, should have two modifications. I did those modifications. One was indicating the trees located and mapped were 4-inch diameter breast height located in May of 2022 for the request by the town. The other was that we increased the open space by 5 feet on the west side along lots. What I did was along lots 1 through 9 in its entirety. That changed the total amount of open space so that it went up another 1/10 of an acre. So now we have a total of 23.1 versus 23.0 plus or minus. And it also modified that drainage easement along the back of those lots. I brought that 5 feet closer to the roadway. Those lots still have approximately 195 feet of depth before they get the open space. Okay, so that includes that drainage easement. That is the only changes on the plan. That and the fact that the minimum size lot was 20,000 square feet just over. Now the minimum square footage is 19,790 because I took that 5 foot of open space lot. Still, the lots are substantially larger than the lots to the east in Wellington Meadows and the lots to the west in South. So that's the only changes to the plans. The Mark's review letter went through with his comments about everything he looked at. I don't know if there's anything else before.
We'll go through. Mr. Duval, any questions?
No, this time.
Mr. Evans?
Reading over the letter, referring to all the studies, all the categories that have been addressed. I'm glad to see that, for stormwater, traffic, drainage, wetland, sewers. We're looking at all the bases.
Thank you. Mr. Snyder?
Yes, I'm good at this point.
Mr. Bloss?
A question on lots 2 through 9, it shows on the big one on at 200 feet, and you said that might be with that swale in there, might be down to 195 or something.
Is your plan, the most recent one that I submitted to the town,
195.
195? Because I took 5 feet off, it was 200 feet.
501 to green space.
Yeah, the green, who owns the green space?
The individual lots will own the green space. What's been going on is that Jan Kulik, the attorney for my client, has submitted language for how that open space would be protected through filings that would be required by the town. The fee title of the open space will be owned by the respective lots in the sub. However, it will be encumbered by the language that's being required by Neil Germain in the town of Cicero, be filed as we go to final plan. So what we're doing here is, tonight, we're hoping to address everything for preliminary plan. The preliminary plan approval, so we can then move to contract document phase and wetland committee. Prior to going in, coming back here with a final plan application, section 1. When we finally get through final plan approval, hopefully, the language that Neil Germain and Dan Kulik have been going back and forth on, I believe it's already set now, I think.
Yeah, I'll speak to that when we're.
He'll speak to that. So we'll have the language already in place as part of this preliminary plan approval. But we still have the contract document phase, wetland permitting to go through, and then we still have to come back to here for final plans. Section 1. We show 3 phases, so there'll be at least 3 phases.
I have nothing further.
Okay, awesome.
Okay, yes, I did have gone back and forth, and we have come up with a grant of conservation easement, which I have found to be acceptable. It does cover all of the things that this board has talked about, runs with the land, preserves and designates the land as, undisturbed. It allows the town to have easements that go through that conservation area. It's enforceable by the town or the homeowners. In addition to that, there's language in it that would require each individual deed out to any homeowner and subsequent deeds to contain that language. So everybody who buys has a written description of that easement in their deeds. I have a copy of the final approved conservation easement with me, and a copy of a Schedule A that would appear in deeds that show people that their land is going to be subject to that, which I'm going to give to the clerk and ask that it be included in the record. So later on, when they go to record it, we can make sure that it's the same as what's been approved.
No, I don't have any further comments. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have about the review letter. The review letter or anything else related to the project.
I think we're good. So we're ready to move forward with the approval of the amendment.
Right.
With the seeker. I'll make a motion to move for our standard seeker. Second. Mr. Block?
Yes.
Mr. Abbey?
Yes.
Mr. Snyder? Yes. Mr. Block?
Yes.
And I vote yes for seeker. This is the only proposed motion for approval.
You're gonna move for the adoption of resolution approving the application known as Major Subdivision Preliminary Plan Leslie and Associates, Inc., Mike Bragman Senior, Lakeshore Road, tax map number 087-01-21.2, 45 lots. Horner Farmstead. This approval is strictly conditioned on the following. The planning board notes that the application is based in part on clustering as set forth in section 278 of the town law. Planning board finds that the preliminary plan as presented meets the requirements of section 278 of the town law. This approval is also strictly conditioned on the applicant's filing of a grant of conservation easement in regard to the property, which consists of approximately 64.67 acres and is currently identified as tax map number 087-01-21.2. The grant of this easement has been presented to the planning board's attorney and has been approved as to form and content. The applicant is required to file this easement with the Onondaga County Clerk. To avoid confusion as to the exact language of the conservation easement, the planning board's attorney has presented a copy of the approved easement to the planning board clerk for inclusion into the record hereof.
Somebody like to make that motion? So moved. For a second. Mr. Block?
Yes.
Mr. Abbey?
Yes.
Mr. Snyder?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
And I vote yes. The mayor's vote.
Thank you.
That concludes our agenda items. Any discussion from the team members? So, we have a motion to adjourn. So move. Second.
Second.
The meeting is adjourned.